Perfect. Okay. So good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here this morning. We have a couple things I want to go over and a couple things that I wanted to cover with you today. I am just in the beginning stages of starting to create a PowerPoint presentation for these meetings. And so today I have 3 slides for you. We'll get there, and I promise that I will. And this was the best I could do today, but each week I'm going to build on it a little bit, and each week you'll see it'll grow a little more. There'll be more animations, and it'll be much more professional. But there were a few things I wanted to share with you guys today, and a few things that I wanted to talk about. Plus, I wanted us to be able to talk about some of the things that happened at the Market Watch seminar that they had this week, as for those of you that weren't able to attend. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't have any of our affiliates on, or Josh is off on a much well-deserved couple days off with family in town, and I know Jeff had an appointment this morning. So we're going to go ahead and get started just into the meat of what we have. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on one sec. Doing this new for the first time. So let's see if I can make this work. This is why I used to have a second computer for this piece. Okay, so let me share my screen and see if this works. All right, are you guys seeing, do you see my mouse? No?
Well, I see the floor schedule.
Okay, so you see the realtor on duty thing?
Yes.
Oh, I see. It's the wrong one though. Hold on. That's not right. Hold on one sec. This is the one I think I want you to see. Okay. So this is just a little reminder that, thank you for being patient with me there. This is just a little reminder that your floor schedule is now available, or your floor duty is now available. This is a little video. Are you guys seeing the video move right now? This is a little video of the patio yesterday outside Armando's. So I just wanted you guys to see that. It was Cinco de Mayo yesterday, but I was the only one in here. I did have a couple agents pop in. Actually, no, I take that back. Amy was in on floor time yesterday. But those people aren't going to be here for much longer. They're going to be going back to wherever they came from soon, because the temperatures are up in the 90s and they're getting close to the hundreds. So just be aware of that. We have still have some amazing slots and some amazing shifts on the floor schedule that are available, and they are available from 10 to 1 and 1 to 4 daily. So I've also included the website here in case you don't remember what it is. It's www.pickshift.com. Your username is your email address, and your user ID is the password that you set up with me. If you did not set up a password with me, then you just need to reach out to me, text me, call me, email me, and I will set up a username for you on the floor schedule. I think most of us have it, but for those of you that don't, I just wanted you to be able to see that. The next slide is our List Like a Pro class. Next Tuesday, May the 10th, I think most of you that are on this call today got a call from me yesterday asking if you could attend, asking if you would be able to attend. So I have enough of you that said yes to it that actually I didn't have anybody that said no. So all of you are going to be able to attend. So Jeff and I are going to do this one together. So what we're going to do, what the session is basically you're making your calls, you get a listing appointment, now what, right? So this is like what to do from the time you get the appointment all the way up until you leave the house with a signed contract, and all the paperwork you need and everything you need to go live on the multiple listing service. So we're going to talk about how to prepare for your listing appointment, what to bring with you, and what to leave behind for the client. I've been on too many appointments where somebody has said, oh yeah, they didn't leave anything behind. So I always make sure that I leave something behind for them to have and to read. And also it helps to reiterate things that I've said to them throughout the appointment. We're also going to talk about scripts that you can use to help you get agreement as you're having the appointment, and and that'll help you to take the listing, so that you leave with the listing at the first appointment. There is nothing worse than having a full listing appointment and the whole thing's over and they say, okay, well, we want to think about it, right? So we're going to talk about what to do when you get to that place with a client, and then we're going to talk about how to leave with everything you need to go live in the MLS. So I have a full checklist here of everything that I do. It's funny, I actually reviewed this with an agent yesterday, and I shared with her that I created this list. I started in real estate in 2006. I created this list in 2013. So it took me a really long time to get to the place where I recognized that I needed to put everything that I do in one place. And so I have a couple little tools like that that I'm going to share with you, and we're going to update them together. And you're going to leave that session with a full packet that you can use as a template for every single listing appointment that you have in the future. So I think, yeah, go ahead.
I won't be able to make it on Tuesday, but I really would love to have that packet. Can I get that?
So what I will suggest for you is that I'm going to, well, I'm not going to record the session because it's going to be live. And the reason I'm doing it live is that everybody's going to leave with that packet. So what I will suggest for you is that you and I set up a one-on-one one day, that one of those days that we have our appointment, our recurring appointment, you and I'll set up a one-on-one and I will go over it with you individually.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, I do ask though, as many of you can come to the class as possible. It does make it a whole lot easier on me, but I'm absolutely happy to sit down and do a one-on-one with you if you can't make it. So any questions on that before we move on? And lunch will be provided. It is from 11 o'clock to 12:45. So lunch will be provided by Joshua Tree Escrow. And I'll probably have another vendor bring in beverages for us, but we will have food for you. So you'll be able to bring in your laptop if you want to, but you don't necessarily need it for this course. We're going to do everything on paper, and then what it'll do is you'll be able to go back and edit. I'll give you digital copies of everything that we're going to go over, so you can go back and make the edits and the changes to it that you want, so that it's custom just for you and the way you do your business. So all this stuff is customizable. You don't have to do everything that I was doing. As a matter of fact, I found a couple things on here yesterday that are a little outdated and that we don't have to do anymore. I think I even have on here, like, it's not on this one, but on one of the old ones, I had like take pictures of the property. I don't do that anymore. Like I don't remember, we used to carry like little cameras around with us and we would snap photos. We just don't do that anymore. So anyway, so yeah, we'll go over all of that at the class. We'll make sure that we have lunch provided for you. And then in a couple weeks, I'm going to do another one of these courses that's basically going to be like what to do once you open escrow. So once you get an accepted contract, what are the next steps? What do you do to get your client through to the close of escrow? So that'll be the next one we do in a couple weeks. But this List Like a Pro will be the next one, because I'm noticing that we're having listing appointments, but a lot of you don't necessarily know exactly what to do in order to prepare and what to do when you're there. So we're going to cover all of that, and I'm sure you'll feel super confident once we're done with that. The next piece is, if you missed the Market Watch seminar, we are going to cover some of it today. The first 5 minutes of the seminar was him going over slides, and I mean blazing through them. So the first 15 to 20 slides, I'm going to spend a little more time on today, so that we can get a little, just take a look at them and sort of analyze what they mean and talk about that a bit. But if you're interested in watching the Market Watch webinar, I have received a copy of the link to be able to watch it. So I'm going to host a watch party in the office. Again, we'll have some beverages in the office, but we'll do it at 11 o'clock. That's going to be next Thursday, May 12th at 11 a.m. And that will be at the Better Homes and Gardens El Paseo office. So mark your calendars for that. If you are able to attend, those who attend, I will have a printout of the slides that were given at the webinar. The one thing you do need to remember is that you're not supposed to duplicate them. Like you can use them in certain ways, but there's certain things you're not allowed to do with them. So we just have to be careful. And so we'll go ahead. That is going to be next. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. That's going to be next Thursday on May 12th at 11 a.m. But now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to go back into the presentation. And we're going to talk about some of these slides a little bit. Let's see if I can get out of here and show. Perfect. All right, so any questions on any of that stuff that we just went over while I'm pulling this other one up? If you have them, now's the time. Awesome. All right, let's see what I can find here. This is our Desert Dynamics. That's not the right one. Shoot. There it is. Perfect. Okay. Share screen, and I want to share this one. All right, you all guys all see the Palm Springs Market Watch screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. All right. So this is, for those of you who aren't familiar, the Palm Springs Life Market Watch seminar, there are 3 of them that are put on every year. They're put on by Palm Springs Life, Franklin Loan Center, California Desert Association of Realtors, and Greater Palm Springs Realtors are all sponsors of the event. Franklin, Walter Neal from Franklin Loan Center generally speaks, and then there's a gentleman who, I can't remember his name. I just lost it. I can't remember his name, but there's a gentleman that comes on every year and talks. So for those of you that come to the watch party next week, you'll be able to, you'll see him speak. But he's a gentleman that's on all of these webinars. They used to be live. They used to be at Toscana Country Club, and now they're doing them on Zoom, which is nice because a lot more people can attend. So I wanted to just kind of go over, I saw some things that I thought were very interesting. And like I said, he really blazed through these first few slides. So I wanted to just take a little more time. And if you guys feel free as we're going through this, it's a little hard for me to do the chat and the presentation at the same time. So if you have questions, unmute yourself and go ahead and just ask, stop me, and we'll talk about it. We'll pause and have some conversation. But I think the biggest thing to understand is that there really aren't too many surprises here. It's basically what we've all been kind of talking about and sort of anticipating. And so the nice thing about this presentation, and the reason I go to it every single time that they have it, I try to attend all 3 times each year that they have this presentation, is because it's on the Coachella Valley. And a lot of times when we hear stats for Southern California. And one thing we have to remember, and I think it actually says it somewhere in here in writing, is that we have the 2nd lowest cost of living in Southern California outside of Victorville. And I want, like, just think about that for a second. In
And
Southern
I've
California,
lived in both of those places, and I can say that that's true.
yeah, and it's also, you can also probably attest to the fact that Palm Springs, of the 2 areas, is definitely the place to be.
Definitely, and there's a lot more drugs, and it's not good.
Yeah, so it's our area in Palm Springs is very unique, and it does some unique things for us. So we'll just kind of get into this. The first thing that he talked about was the summary. The home prices are high, but not like the bubble years of 2005 and 2006. So if you remember, the housing crash of 09 and 2010 stemmed from bad financing and toxic mortgages. That's not so much from high prices. The financial markets today are sound with minimal systemic risk. And what that really means, for those of you that have been doing this for less than 10 years, you don't know what it means to work in a market where the government isn't subsidizing interest rates. And so we're starting to see some little changes in the market. I mean, I call them little because I think a half a point is little. I know it's a big jump to take in one day, but a half a point still, historically, based on where we're at, is still very, very small and very low. But that's the one thing we have to really think about, is that the thing that really fueled the fire for the crash of 2009, 2010 was the bad financial markets. And those financial markets, there's so much regulation and things are done so differently today. It really kind of had me thinking about how we did things in 09 and 2010. It was very, very different. I think for some of us, we turned away more business than we took because we knew we were going to be putting people, if we put them in this bad loan, we knew that we were going to be short selling their house in a couple months because they weren't going to be able to afford it in a year to 18 months. And that's exactly what happened to a lot of people. So it's just something to think about. Our markets today are much more stable. Yes, there are things happening in the world that aren't stable, but that doesn't include our financial markets, and it doesn't include the mortgage market. Again, all of those safeguards that have been put in place have really helped us to make sure that we don't have to worry as much about that. Home prices are high again, but not like that bubble. Large price gains of the last 2 years were the result of abnormally low supply plus high demand from artificially low mortgage rates engineered by the Fed, like we just talked about. With higher rates, half of this equation is now going away. So what does that mean for you guys out in the field? What that means is, just like we talked about the last time we all got together, is that we have to start requalifying all of our buyers. We're hearing right now tons of conversation about buyers that are falling out of escrow 1 or 2 weeks in, just right before that 17-day or 10-day or whatever they've given themselves for an inspection period. We just had one the other day that fell out, and it wasn't, this one wasn't for financing purposes, but it was about the margins, and that this investor couldn't make this flip work, and call it what it is, but it couldn't make this flip work because the margins weren't large enough. And so it's all stuff that we're going to have to pay attention to, and we're going to have to start requalifying our buyers and making sure that those buyers we're working with. Here's what I would hate for you to do. Somebody got pre-approved 3 months ago and they were able to afford $800,000. So you go out now and you look at properties and you find something that they like, they get into escrow only to find out it's not that they don't qualify. It's not that they're no longer approved, but it's that now that they've recognized that gas prices probably aren't going down and they're starting to see that their grocery bills are higher, maybe they've recognized that they can't actually afford it. And that's really what's happening in most cases. It's not that they don't qualify for the loan any longer. It's that they're just not comfortable with the financial commitment that it's going to require with the rising cost of everything else around them. So that's something you need to be talking to your buyers about. I've watched a lot of agents lately go out and write offers, and in all honesty, their buyers not really qualified to write an offer in this market. They just haven't had enough conversation with them to have really identified that. So I want you guys to get really good at asking those kind of questions, and just say, hey, this is a great way to just check in with your buyers. Anybody that you've been working with, hey, I just wanted to check in with you. I know you're probably hearing what's going on in the markets and things are changing. And so I just wanted to check in with you to see where you're at, to see how this has affected you. Do you know how it's affected you? Have you had an opportunity to speak to the lender to see if this is something that we need to adjust the price point, or if we need to make sure we're looking at lower HOA dues, or if maybe we need to not be in a gated community? There's all kinds of different ways we can circumvent some of these challenges, but there's also the possibility that the answer is just going to be no. No, I just can't afford it now. And no is not a bad thing. All we need to get to yeses, but we have to go through the no's to get to the yeses, right? So if the answer is no, I can't afford it anymore, then for all intents and purposes, you want to stop putting that person in your car or stop writing offers for them, because they've just made that decision. And as much as we want everyone to be a homeowner, not everyone is meant to be in every market. That was something somebody had to teach me a long, long time ago, because I really felt like everyone should be able to own a home. And it's not the case. Not in every market does everyone make that decision for themselves. So we just have to kind of watch that and have those conversations. You should just be checking in with those buyers and having those conversations weekly, especially if it's an A buyer, then you should be having it at least twice a week. Your B and C buyers, your B buyers maybe once a week, and your C buyers maybe every other week. But if we're not doing at least that, we're probably not going to be finding properties for these people, right? Because stuff's going so quickly still. And we're going to talk about that more. So let's go to the next piece. Home prices are high, but already talked about that. However, with the month of sales, ratios under 1 month, upward pressure on home prices is expected to continue. So does everybody understand what that means, what the month of sales ratio is? So month of sales ratio is if there are 500 homes on the market and there are 100 homes selling every month, that's a 5-month supply of homes. That means if no more homes came on the market today in 5 months at 100 homes a month, in 5 months, all the homes would be gone, right? Normally, what we like to see is about a 6-month supply of inventory. That is a well-oiled, healthy market. The market we're in right now, as much as it has been lucrative for a lot of us, it's not a healthy market. And many of it can feel it when we're going out and showing property and writing offers and getting beat out over and over and over again. It can feel a little relentless, and it is, but that's also what makes the market we're in not necessarily a healthy market, although it has been lucrative for lots of people. So again, that month to sales ratio right now is under 1 month. We are in a very depressed market as far as the number of properties that are on the MLS and that are available for sale. The Coachella Valley inventory remains near all-time lows, and they should stay low unless the number of new listings increases. And when he first read this, I was like, well, duh. But really the answer here is, and what the point is that we're getting at, is that you guys need to be going out and looking for listings. We all do. We know that listings are leverage, and that those who have the listings are the ones who control the market. And really, in this case, with our average days on market still at 30, it's right around 28 to 32 days on market, depending on what city you're in. We know that every listing you take is a paycheck, and generally within 30 days. That did not used to be the case. It was normally a paycheck within 45 to 60. But right now, things are still moving so quickly. And really the point is, you guys need to be out there pounding the pavement looking for those listings. So beefing up the farming, beefing up the phone calls, beefing up the door knocking, all of it. I know it's getting to the place time of the year where we don't necessarily want to do door knocking, but you still have the opportunity to do it in the evenings. And in most cases, we're allowed to do that. We're very lucky that there are still some areas in the state of California. I was just at the Sacramento State Realtor meetings last week, and there were some areas where people were talking about the fact that they still are not allowed to door knock, and they're not allowed to solicit by phone. So think about that as you guys are having challenges and don't want to make your phone calls or aren't feeling great about them. At least you're able to pick up the phone and make a call. There's some agents in some areas in California that still aren't allowed to do that, but we should all be out there right now looking for those listings, any listing that you can get. The new listings, again, new listings need to increase to 18% to both maintain current sales and to slowly normalize inventory. So that is where we need to be. Or, I'm sorry, not increase to 18%. They need to increase by 18%. So we are 18% away in listings from being in a healthy market. And being in that well-oiled where everything is feeling good and everything, you're out there looking for homes for your buyers and you're finding them. And, when sellers are out there trying to sell their homes, they're not getting beat up horribly. It's just a good, healthy market. So that's where we need to be. That's a lot of listings that need to come on the market. I don't know the exact number in the desert right now, but I know it's right around 700. And I think that number is actually high. I think it's a little lower than that. So 700 times 18% that's an additional 126 listings that need to come on the market. And to be honest, that number doesn't sound like a lot to me, but really when we think about it, like, who are the agents that are out there doing business and how many listings is that? That's really, in all honesty, it's like less than one listing per person that we need to take to get back to that healthy market. But it's easier said than done right now, right?
Have the desert housing report. I printed it. It's 859, which is 149 units more than last year.
Got it. Okay, perfect. What city is that for? Is that for the entire Coachella Valley?
That's the entire valley.
All right. Well, is that just for one quarter?
That's
oh no, well, that's a number, that's a total number. All right. Well, I want to compare that number to what's in here because I feel like that might be different, but I could be wrong. Sales are down 15% since last summer. With rising mortgage rates and less new listings increase, sales should continue to decline. So again, prices are still going up, but there are fewer sales. And really the reason for that is interest rates rising, but it's also the fact that there just are not enough homes for people to buy. So again, it's another indicator for me as an agent. This tells me I need to go out and get listings because any listing I get is going to help me to first of all gain market share, make a name for myself, and help me to have that leverage that I need over the market. Median selling times are now from 3 to 4 weeks in every Valley city. So it is, like I told you guys, it's those numbers are right around that 28-day mark. And in some areas, it's true. They've even gone as low as 21, 22 days. So that's just something to think about. Over 50% of all Valley homes are now selling above list price. And I want you to really think about that statement, because that also means that just about 50%, just under 50% of Valley homes are now selling below list price. And I think that's an important conversation to be having with your sellers, that while we are still seeing in certain areas, and this is where you really need to know your market, you need to know your comps, and you need to know what's going on in that particular neighborhood, but we are seeing some homes sell less than list price. It is happening. As a matter of fact, almost half of them are selling for less than list price. But there are very large selling premiums in every Valley city. Let's see. Last year, oh, this is another piece, and this is for your investor clients. This is for your clients who are thinking of continuing to rent instead of buying, like they want to wait until the market comes down. Last year, the average rents rose 20%, largely keeping up with home prices. So buying to rent still makes economic sense, which means that if you're buying in order to rent the home, rents are raising at the same prices, at the same rate that home prices are raising, which means that you're still making money. It's still a hedge for inflation. And so that's another really important piece to think about. But it's also important to know that while those rents are rising, so are home prices. So if you think you're going to wait until the market falls out, you're living in 2010. And that happened one time, but that is not the world we live in today. And that's not the market we're living in today. So these pieces and these slides can really be helpful for you when these are great one-liners to be able to insert into your listing presentation that are amazing scripts to help prove the validity of the points that you're making with your clients. Okay. When you factor in inflation, even with higher mortgage rates, it is still better to buy a home in the Valley than to rent a home. Those are powerful words, right? And again, like all these pieces go into it. Conclusion, the industry should intensify efforts to solicit more new listings. So it was really funny hearing this gentleman tell us, like normally it's the brokers out telling you guys, get more listings, but it was really funny that he was like, you guys should be soliciting more listings. This is what you should be doing with your time right now. So it's across the board. It needs to happen. Now, we can look at some of these. There's a 3-year, but I'm not going to go into all of them because I want the explanation that came along with the Market Watch webinar that they have. I want that explanation to go along with some of this stuff, but I do think it's interesting and we can look at some of these because we have a little bit more time to do this. The 3-year increase in the Coachella Valley housing stock has been 4,000 single family homes and 604 attached homes. So 3-year increase in Coachella Valley housing stock. What this means is that these are homes that were built. There was 4,000 new homes built and 4,000 single family homes and 604 attached homes built in the last 3 years. That's what this slide is showing. Remote owners now own 50% of our housing stock. Over the last 3 years, owner occupants increased by 3,343, while remote owners grew only by 1,265. What does that say to you guys? I want to hear somebody else's input on this. What does that stat say to you? What does this slide tell you?
The Canadians are leaving.
Some of them are. Some of them are excited that they're getting to come back for the first time in a long time. But you're absolutely right. What it's telling me is that there are more families moving to the desert and staying here full time, right? So more people that are coming here, not just for a second home, not just for a vacation rental, but they're coming here and they're bringing their families and they're staying. And there was a little stat, I don't know what the number is now, and it would be really helpful if we could figure this out, and I'll try to do that. But there was a stat that I used to use about 10 years ago that said that 15 homes a day, or 15 families per day were moving to the Coachella Valley in order to establish residency here, and we're bringing their families here. And so I don't know what that number is now. It would be very interesting to know it, but and I guess maybe we could figure it out from this slide. But that number has grown, and you can definitely see it in the way the Coachella Valley operates. You can see it in the streets in the summertime. You used to be able to get from Indio to Palm Springs on a summer day in 20-30 minutes. Maybe 30, maybe 20 if I was driving, but 30 minutes, you know what I mean? And now you absolutely can't do that even on a Sunday morning, early in the morning. So it's very interesting. In March, the median price of the Valley detached homes was up 20% year over year. I just want you all to take that stat in for a second. So in March, the median price of Valley detached homes was up 20% year over year. That means there was a 20% increase in the median price of a home year over year. That stat historically, we normally look at about 3% appreciation per year. have 20% appreciation. I remember a couple years ago, it was 5 or 6 years ago, Palm Springs had a couple years where they had 18% appreciation, and we were all just like, that can't be sustained. But it has been. We've seen it again. It just goes to show what a depressed market we're in. And it does show that this is not the healthiest of markets we've ever seen. But again, still been lucrative. It's also great point that there's no bad market. There's just, it depends on what market you're in and how you're going to utilize it and how you're going to access it. So in March, the median price of an attached home was up 30%. This stat is very interesting to me because from 2009 to 2015, 16, the price of attached homes was so depressed, and it was really because you could buy a single family residence for the same price you could get a condo. So everybody was choosing to move into single family homes. With the lack of inventory now, more people are looking at the option of a condo because they don't have a choice, or looking at the option of an attached property just simply because there are no other options. And I think it has a lot to do with us too. Like we're doing our searches in different places where we normally wouldn't, including criteria that we normally wouldn't, because there just aren't any other options. So that one I thought was very interesting. And that price went from, what was it, $345 up to $450 for an attached home. Number kind of blows my mind a little bit. So what's next? Home pricing continues to surge in every Valley city. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me see if I can zoom in and make it a little bigger. So this one's really hard to see, but I think again, this slide is interesting. This is a little different than they've done before. What they've actually done is they have pulled the average size of a home in each city, and then they have priced those homes. So price the average price per square foot. So they've taken we'll just use the first one here as the city of Coachella. That average home size is 1,700 square feet. The average price per square foot of a home in that city is $267.79. That makes the average price, the price of the average sized home should be right around $455. That price a year ago was $303. Right? That 12-month change is 49.8%, almost 50% increase in Coachella. Just blows your mind. It also talks about what was the price. I love this slide. It talks about what the low was in 2011 and 12, and that low was $111,000. And this again, just like you look at it and you think back to when we were in those places, if you bought properties in that neighborhood for $111,000, they would be potentially worth $455,000 now. And then it also shows you the percentage increase from the low. So I know that was Coachella, but when we look at these, like average size home in Indian Wells is $3,450. It's a very, very different number. Rancho Mirage is again up in that 3,000 range. And both of those have a price per square foot of in the 400s. That average price in Indian Wells, or the price of the average size home in Indian Wells, is 1.66. And the average price in Rancho Mirage is 1.3. Palm Springs, we go down to the bottom there. That one, the average price home is $2,175. The average price per square foot is $599.75 in Palm Springs right now. And that's the average price per square foot. And then the price of the average size home is 1.3. And I want you to just recognize that this 1.3 in Palm Springs, look at the 1.3 in Rancho Mirage. Look at the difference in the price per square foot. Look at the difference in the square footage. You get an extra 1,000 square feet just for moving to Rancho Mirage. And I know for some Palm Springs people that's not worth it, but for somebody who loves Rancho Mirage, I think it is. But it's very, very interesting, like what the premium is. You get a whole extra 1,000 square feet if you live in Rancho Mirage over Palm Springs right now. Do you guys have any input on this? Like, what does this slide tell you? How do you feel about it? What do you think about it? What strikes you as interesting in this slide? Anybody? I'll give you a minute because I need to take a drink of water. Does anybody find it useful? Can you think of a way that you could use this with a buyer or seller to help tell a story? What do you think that would be?
Hey, Steph.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry. For some reason, it just cut out right when you asked the question. What was the question you asked?
Oh, I just asked, like, what does this slide tell you? What do you think how could you use the information in this slide to tell a story, either to a buyer or seller?
Oh, just in general, by keeping updated with how the market is shifting and how things are moving over time, and just kind of like the more bang for your buck, I guess you can get in other cities versus just Palm Springs.
Right.
A lot of people just automatically go toward
Oh, I think we're losing you, Kara.
what out there and the value that you can get from it. So this your person.
Oh, I can't hear you anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. But thank you. I don't know what you said, but I appreciate you chiming in. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Home prices continuing to surge. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Just want to make sure I didn't cut out on you.
Better now.
Okay, good. Okay, so home prices continue to surge. This is that chart again. This is let's shrink this down just a little bit. Okay, so the price of, this is of the attached home. So this is the same chart, but for attached properties. And this one has, let's see, I get it. So they did it, the smallest average size home for attached properties, 750 in Desert Hot Springs, and goes all the way down. But it has tells sort of a similar story that it does with the other chart. Sales have been slowing since last summer. So this number I feel like is very interesting. It does show you that, again, because of the increase in rates, you can see that here, that we've got this like downward slide. The lack of inventory and the increase in rates is definitely causing that. And I think, yep, this next slide shows that the expectation is that the number of transactions will continue to go down. Now, we don't know how far, and even if we look and just project out a little bit here, it looks like it could get down to like maybe into the 800s. But again, we don't know what's going to happen. But we do know that we need to go out and find new listings, because if you don't have them, you're hardly going to have anything to sell to your buyers, right? So the more listings you have, the more opportunity you have to sell something to your buyers, and the more opportunity you have to collect a check at the end of the day. After a long decline, inventory appears to be bottoming out around 700 units. That's okay. That's what it was saying. So potentially could go out to around 700 units. Or is that where it's already at? Sorry, let me look back at this. No, that is where it's at. 678. Eric, what was the number that you gave me? You said 850?
Yeah, the Desert Housing Report saying for the whole valley.
What is the date on
859.
that? What's the date on that report?
Oh, this came out 2 days ago.
Okay, so this is up until April 1st. So, well, yeah, but in 30 days, that's a stretch. Maybe, you know what? I'm not sure. I'll have to go look at those numbers and see if I can pull them and figure out what happened there. And maybe there's something different too. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the stats are they're using.
I think inventory is increasing. Today on the market, we have 16 new listings.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I did hear. I have heard some of that people are starting to see some more stuff coming onto the market. So again, those that are driving those listings are going to drive the market.
So that's a really good script. There's a lot of new listings coming on, so it's a great time to sell, because it's going to get flooded soon.
Right, exactly. And again, they talked about upward pressure on home prices should continue with month of sale ratios this low. So we're down in this like under a month of inventory. This is where we're at when I talked about 6 months of inventory. Like this is the healthy market that we're looking at. And it looks like the last time we were at that was back in April of 2017. So we have definitely had a shortage of homes, and we really start to feel it once you get in here. Like this is where it's been kind of miserable for the last year or so, trying to get people into properties. And then of course, new listings are down with inventory so low. Sales numbers will be limited to the number of new listings. So it's basically the more listings you get, the more sales there will be, because there are enough buyers to buy them. We just have to go find them, right? So this is the time to really hone those skills on how to get those listings. I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I think this is a good place for us to, and I'll stop here because I want us to watch the webinar together. But the one thing that I want to leave this on is that the Valley lease prices keep going up with home prices, and there's more conversation in here. The reason I want you guys really to watch the webinar is because of the way they talk about how to have that conversation with your investor clients, and what we're doing with lease prices going up, and also how to have the conversation with your buyers who are waiting for something interesting to happen. And we're all sitting here saying the interesting thing is happening right now. Like, now's the time that you want to do it. So because we're not seeing that we're seeing that fewer people will be able to afford homes. And we are seeing that fewer people will be able to buy homes because there will be fewer homes on the market. So if you're waiting for prices to go down, neither one of those are indicators of prices going down, right? And so we just need to be cognizant of that and be careful of it, and just, again, having those conversations with our buyers and educating them, as well as our sellers. But I'm going to leave it here because I want to leave the rest of it we have several more slides and lots more conversation to be had about this, but I want to leave it for the webinar next Thursday, or for the watch party next Thursday. So does anybody have any questions on anything that we went over today? Or do you, do you have any questions on any of that stuff?
No, that was really interesting.
Yeah. Did you find it beneficial?
Yes.
Do you find it helpful?
Yes.
If we could,
really helpful.
awesome. If we could, I want to kind of just go through and have each of you share with me, like, what would you say from just one takeaway, one aha from, well, I'll take Liz is bringing homemade chips and salsa for the watch party. So I'll say that's my positive.
Yes,
That's
on
my
Tuesday. Yeah.
I love it. That sounds great. But
Okay.
what would you guys, I want each of you to tell me, and Liz, I'll start with you. What's one of your takeaways, or what's one of your ahas from what we talked about so far today?
Well, I'm always a fan of looking at pricing based on square footage. So those slides were extremely enlightening. And because I have a lot of times buyers are so confused about the pricing in our valley, because it goes from one extreme to another. And it's like, well, it's always based on location, but there's so many other factors, and it's good to be able to explain in more detail why there's such a variation in price range.
Absolutely.
So yeah, those slides are really, really useful. I'd like to get my hands on those numbers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. It's very helpful when you're sitting down and talking with a client, when you have something like this that you can show. But it's also useful when you have it in your elevator speech that you're able to, throw down in a grocery store or at a gas station or wherever you are when you meet somebody that you need to talk to about these things. And when somebody asks you how the market is, it's great to be able to say, well, tell me, like, what part of the market is interesting to you? Are you looking to buy or sell, or where do you live? Because the market's different all over the Coachella Valley.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head spin most of the time, because especially when you don't really know the client, what they need, what their needs are, and they're just like, well, what's the market like? And it's like, well, what do you really want to know? There's so many variables.
Yeah, and these kind of stats can help you with pricing.
Yeah.
They can help you with predicting the market, predicting whether you should go in stronger on a price or weaker on a price,
Exactly.
whether you're listing or writing an offer, any of that. So yeah, absolutely. All right, who else? Oh, and does anybody else have a takeaway from this? Andrina, it looks like you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say the same thing Liz said. Just like the square footage to me is just it's really incredible just to see the difference, because really, like, Rancho Mirage isn't that far away from Palm Springs, but it's also two very different cities, and the vibes are just different. So it just kind of helps to see, like, what do people prioritize? Is it the environment that they're going to be in, or is it just like they just want a house and they kind of want more square footage, so they're okay driving down to 15 minutes to get to Palm Springs, like just seeing that.
Right, very interesting. Who else? Does anybody else have a takeaway from this they'll be able to use in your next appointment or in your next conversation with somebody?
I think it's good. It's exciting that we're getting into a healthier market and seeing the inventory is increasing.
I know. I know as much. It's so funny. Like I love it when people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you must just be killing it." And I'm like, "I'm killing myself." Like we are able to do a lot of business, but at the same time, like it's not easy. You know, I'm sure if out of the 6 of us here, if we added up all of the offers we've written versus all of the ratio of all the offers that got accepted this year, it's a scary number. So yeah, I agree with you. I am looking forward to the shift. If and I don't want to say if there is one, there will be one, but it will be different than any other shift we've experienced before. Because we don't have that false bottom in the market that we did with the financial the mortgage industry. So it's interesting. It feels more stable to me than it did the last go around with this. But the thing we mostly have to recognize is that it doesn't matter what the market is. We just have to figure it out and figure out how to work within it and figure out who the people are to serve at that time. Because as markets shift, the people that we serve are sometimes can be different. I mean, and a lot of times it's just because of who's at the right opportunity, who's got the right opportunity at the moment. So requalifying your clients, having those conversations again, just checking in with everybody. I think the last time we had a shift like this, I remember when I started having clients, we were writing offer after offer after offer. And I was like, come on, just keep going. You're good. Like I was the #1 cheerleader. And one lady just looked at me and she was like, look, we've written 10 offers. We haven't even come close. I'm just going to go back to school and I want to just go finish my education. Then I can make more money and then I can put a better down payment on a house. And she priced herself out of them. She just took herself right out of the market. And I had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 clients that happened with. And every time it did, it was like a gut punch. But at the same time, I just had to remind myself that not everyone is meant to own a home in every market. Right. And so I have to now shift who I'm looking for, because that's been the easy thing. Is finding buyers has been easy, but finding ways to serve them has been difficult. So what we need to look for are ways to we need to look for buyers, qualify our buyers all over again, and qualify them a little differently than we have in the past. And it's also probably like it's been a very wham bam thank you ma'am kind of market, excuse the terminology, but it's been very much just like hit it and quit it. And when that happens, the last time that we had a shift like this, the one thing that became more important to people was not how fast you serve them, but it was how you made them feel. And so start looking at that, start paying attention to that as people start looking to be a little more handheld. And a lot of this happens when things are getting more expensive. We're a little more careful, right? So like if you have $100,000 in your bank account and you just need to go out and like run errands, you're not really going to think about it. But if you have to like some big projects ahead of you and you're also going to go out and run errands, you're probably going to pay a little more attention to how you're spending that money, right? It's also like I think the best analogy is when you get a commission check. You just go out and buy all the things you want to buy and you're just like all over town. And then once that commission check comes close to being spent, we're like back to thinking about how we're going to get the next one, right? And so we kind of sort of have something similar with that in the market, where we got to make sure that we're bringing our buyers back to the market and making sure that they're still qualified to be in it. And then again, having those conversations with sellers about like if there is a valid reason to sell. And again, that's what we're always looking for, is what's the motivation. And if we don't know what the why is, I can't help somebody. And you guys have to be digging into that. Why do they want to make this move? Because if the why is big enough, they'll make it happen. Right. And so we have to tap into the why, because that's the thing that gets them to make the move. And so it's those thoughts lead to actions, and actions lead to events. So we have to find those thoughts and use them to leverage them into taking action. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to do for today. If you guys have questions, I'll open it up. If you have anything you want to chat about, any wants or needs, feel free to share right now. I'll stop talking because I'm kind of tired of it. So I'll let you guys go if you've got anything. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Any wants or needs? Or any ahas from today? Eric, did you say you have another listing coming up?
We do. I have a listing coming up. It's a co-listing with Jeff Rayborn. It's coming onto the market on the 12th. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo, Central Palm Springs, Mountain View, upstairs unit.
What's the price?
$345.
Man, those prices are good on those condos, and they're cute little things too.
This one's super cute. She has a really nice mountain view, and it's fee simple. There's no land lease.
What's the HOA?
360.
Why are they so cheap?
It includes water and trash. Our HOA has a lot of residents that are on fixed incomes, so they are like devoted to keeping like that low number.
Oh, interesting. Good to
Yeah.
know.
But yeah,
What's
so
the subdivision again?
it's called Pueblo Sands.
That's right. That's right. Okay, got it. Oh, well, it sounds like a really good one. All right, anybody else have anything they want to share?
It's funny. I just want to share that like doing properties, like a lot of listings in one community, you really do feel like all of the different market changes just in have it. It's like a miniature version of what's happening out there.
Yep, it really is. And it's interesting when you start to focus. I've done the same thing in this last year where I've started to focus my efforts just on the neighborhood that I live in. And that's for the first time that I've lived there in 20 years. And it's interesting. I'm getting to know my neighbors more. Like I know more people in the neighborhood. I know more about what's going on in the neighborhood. And I've lived there for over 20 years. So it is interesting, but you also do feel those shifts, it's a little microcosm of what's going on in the rest
It
of the
really is.
market.
It's weird.
Yeah, because you see when new things come on and when prices go up and when something there's a home in my neighborhood, the highest, I want to say I have the highest price attached 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom sale in the neighborhood. The detached units on the outside of my neighborhood though, one of my friends just bought one for $290. And it's a 2-bedroom, 888 square feet with a floor plan where the back door hits the fridge door every time you come in it. So like it's of all the ones, it's not my favorite. She just bought that one for $290 back in November. There is another one that sold right next door, same floor plan for $323. It sold like just right before she bought hers for $290. They just put it on the market for $440 and it went into escrow. I don't know what at, but the fact that a home in my neighborhood sold for not sold, was able to get an offer being on the market at 440 is blowing my mind. I don't know what it'll close at, and I can't imagine it's going to be 440. But to get even 400 in that neighborhood, I never thought I would live to see that day. I literally thought I would be dead by the time that happened. So I don't know. I don't even know what to say, but you're right that when it comes to that kind of stuff, like I'm able to really relate to that price and how weird it is because I've never seen a condo in my neighborhood go for anything like that. Like the most I think I've ever seen, there's a freestanding 3-bedroom that has a pool in the backyard. And I think that went for like 325 at the very height of the market, like back in like 07 or 08 or something like that.
That's
So-
how I feel right now in my community. Like a house sold that was around like 2,500 square feet and sold in December for 545. And then another one came on the market that's 1,800 square feet and it went into escrow at, their asking price was 575. And I'm just like, what? Like if that sells at that, I'm like, I'm watching it to see what it actually closes at, because I'm
Yeah.
like, if that closes, an 1,800 square foot home here closes at 575, then I need to go look somewhere else
Right?
living
So
because
that's
I need to sell my house.
You're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, the friend that bought hers for $290 called me and she was like, just so you know, if that thing sells at 440, I'm putting my house on the market. I love being your neighbor, but I'm going to move. And I was like, I tell you what, if that thing sells at 440, we're going to live in your car because I'll sell my house too.
Seriously. I do actually have a question now that it came up.
Mhm.
I'm still very new, obviously. So I want to know, what is the effect of a apartment complex coming next to like somebody's community, like my community? Does that bring down housing?
I mean, it can, but it depends on, I don't know. I think there's a bigger picture. The area that you live in though is well, you live in Spanish Walk.
Yes.
Those homes, when those were designed, were built to be college housing. And I don't mean that was like college dorms, but it was meant like those floor plans are very they lend to that very well. Like
Yeah.
those floor plans in that neighborhood, some of them have it like it's a there's a like a two or three bedroom or 3 or 4 bedroom unit, and then there's a 1 bedroom like a what is it?
Yeah,
It's like a flat
it's
upstairs above the
condos.
garage.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like they have like a little suite that can be rented out, that can be used for a student. And so I don't necessarily mean it's student housing, but that was sort of the thought process of that development. And I think all the planning that went into that neighborhood, Spanish Walk, University, like that University Park, like that whole
Yeah.
kind of area was all intended to be higher density housing simply because it's supposed to serve the university and the campus around it.
Correct.
So I think that was always the intention. So I would say I don't know specifically what it will do if an apartment complex moves into you, but I think or in next to you, it could reduce the price of the property. But it could also bring more transactions. It can bring how do I say that? Like it just brings it brings growth to the area, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely need that right now because we need housing overall as it goes. But what I guess my question to you would be, what is your concern? What would your concern be that it might affect you? Like how are you concerned that it would affect you?
Well, I mean, obviously a builder wants to like talk to the community about it. But to me, I was just thinking like, sometimes there's that negative connotation with like renting. It's just going to be a lot of people more in and out. You don't know who people are associated with when they're renting. So I was just like curious to see like, would it hurt our community or would it kind of help us? Because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's going to be people that are living here. And then, once they're in this area, they're going to start adapting to it. And who knows, possibly want to own over here.
Well, you know what I would say? I think this comes from a little different, I don't know. I have some experience um with through the scholarship program that I'm a part of through California Desert Association of Realtors. I've gotten some exposure to College of the Desert and to the university campus and to some of the programs that they have. And one thing that I learned is that, that particular college campus, let's just say, even though that stuff is meant to be, college housing or is meant to support that campus around it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not talking dorms. Like this is not it's not that kind of housing. But what this is meant to support is most of the people that are going to COD and that are going to the university campus out here are not straight out of college. Most of those students are over 28 years old, and most of them are buying or are getting a better education to be able to increase their income and to better their life. That is the statistic for all of the education in the Coachella Valley, that the average age of that student, and this was the last time I heard this stat was probably 4 or 5 years ago. So it could be different now, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's
I
that
don't think
different.
so.
Well, and because so the average age of that student being 28, we're not talking about college kids moving into dorms. We're
Yeah.
actually talking about nursing students needing a place to live and pre-med or pre-law or, some of those programs. And some of those programs are also more geared towards trades as well. So it's not necessarily college kids partying, and it's not the kind of like I went to college in Santa Barbara. There's a little neighborhood that's like 1 square block called Isla Vista, and literally the first time my mom drove me through the neighborhood, people were pushing couches off balconies and were letting them on fire in the streets.
Oh.
Right? That's a very different kind of college campus.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And yes, I stayed.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Oregon State, so.
Right. So that's a very different kind of experience than what we're talking about here. Most of these people are already raising families when they're going back into school. So when we're taught, like, that's also when somebody says like, I don't want like college kids or apartments or anything like that. I'm like, wait, you don't want people that are bettering themselves and getting an education living near you? I mean, the reason I was involved with the scholarship fund and got involved and got the exposure to the university and to COD like I did was because as I started to get involved in it, both my parents were teachers, so that was the first lead in. But as I started to get involved in it, what I realized was that when we provide scholarships and we provide opportunities to those particular students, what we're actually doing is not helping college kids that are going to go back to where they came from or that are going to move away and go someplace else. What we're doing is we're helping people who live in the community and who we're helping to create better buyers and sellers. Right? Because if you go from working as a candy striper to now working as a nurse in a hospital, you can afford a much better home than you could. You know what I mean? You can now not just have to rent and have 3 roommates, but now you could buy your own property and maybe even investment property. So I think all of it's good in the long run. I understand somebody being concerned, but I would really, when anybody says that they have a concern like that, my question is, how are you concerned that it'll affect you? And let's address
Yeah.
that. Right? Because I mean, it could have positives, it could have negatives. I can think of far more net positives than I can negatives, but I could see it. I could appreciate how somebody might be concerned about that. And
Yeah.
that's always my answer is I can appreciate how you might be concerned about that. What is it specifically that bothers you about that? Or
Yeah,
concerns
well,
you?
I didn't have a bother really. To me, it's just like, a whole community gets invited. So it's just like, well, I want to be
Yeah.
able to like answer any questions that may come up.
Yeah, and I feel like this sort of reminds me of a time when I was in high school where these people came into my physics class and wanted to talk to the class about why it would be great for a nuclear power plant to be near us. And we were all just like, wait, what? And what we realized is that at the time there was some lobbying for a potential nuclear power plant to be built here in the Coachella Valley. And they were sending people in to basically lobby it to us. And so it can kind of feel like that's sort of what this reminds me of, is that they're coming in to lobby it. But I also think that it is, like you said, it's a great opportunity all community members to get together to ask the questions that they have as a realtor and as their representative. And not that you're representing everybody in your community, but this might also be a good opportunity. When is the event? When are they going to be having this, where they invite the people in?
It's next Friday.
Oh my gosh, Andrina, start door knocking.
Yeah.
Start door knocking and go around. And here's what I want you to do. You're not door knocking for real estate. You're going to let them know, I'm your neighbor. I'm a local realtor. We have all just heard that this company, these so-and-so is coming in and they want to have a conversation with us about bringing in this new facility and building these, this type of housing. And so I just wanted to reach out to make sure you know about it. If you're able to come, please do, and take flyers with you so you can pass it out. And if you're not able to come, here's my card. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. I would be happy to ask them for you. And then I'll be happy to report back on what I find.
Yeah, I love
Right?
that. Yeah.
So
For
I would
sure.
door
Well,
knock
I'm
your
gonna do
entire
that,
neighborhood
yeah,
if you can.
this weekend and during the week, just to let anybody and everybody know.
Perfect. All right,
Thank
I love it. Yeah, that was good. Thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else have anything that we want to chat about before I let you guys go?
At what
We
point
made
would
it to
lobbying
12:00.
become a disclosure?
Well, it's always better to disclose. So we don't have to disclose hearsay. And if somebody said, oh, I heard somebody is coming in. So if one of the neighbors said, oh, did you hear somebody is coming in and they're going to build an apartment complex next door to us? That's hearsay. If you were to attend the event and actually had firsthand knowledge, then it might be a disclosure issue. Might be. But if it's just an exploratory meeting, I don't think there's anything to disclose. Like, there's certain things that have to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we need to see like white paper and other things like that. Or I think that one's pink paper actually, that we need to see before anything becomes real. And so I think at the beginning, it's all kind of just speculation. So we don't necessarily need to disclose speculation. But once it becomes a real thing where we know what's going to happen, or there's any sort of legitimacy to it, then absolutely, I would probably disclose it. Because to be candid, like, not everyone's going to care. You know what I mean? But if there's anything that we know, we definitely need to let people know right away.
Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go and thank you for the meeting. That was very informative. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you all so much. Did anybody
Bye.
have anything
Thank you.
else before I go?
Nope, thank you.
All right, bye, guys.